Hello there, and welcome back to the channel. Let's talk a little bit about college football and the AP Top 25 rankings. They really had a major shakeup, especially one of the top teams really taking a tumble after another disappointing loss. So let's kind of jump into what the rankings look like, what the current landscape of college football is as it stands. Alabama sitting at number one, that no surprise there. Georgia also sitting at number two. They had a phenomenal game. If we allude back to Georgia, this week they were absolutely insane against Vanderbilt. They had 35 points after the first quarter. The final ended up being 62-0. I mean, they were absolutely incredible all game long. They were consistent from start to finish. This is a really great program. Definitely love what I saw from Georgia. A couple of other teams that took a couple of L's. West Virginia barely lost to Oklahoma. Oklahoma was very, very close to losing that game. They ended up winning it. Spencer Rattler got booed in the process, which is really, really unfortunate for the potential top 10 NFL draft pick. But Oklahoma fans aren't very patient right now with Spencer Rattler. He's made some key mistakes in these big games. And unfortunately, that's going to cost them probably later on. So that's something noteworthy. Another game that resulted in a potential leap up into the top 25 was the K-State Oklahoma State game. Oklahoma State ended up winning 31-20 against the 25th ranked at the time K-State. That really propelled Oklahoma State up into that 19th ranking as well. But the biggest game potentially, there were two huge ones: Texas A&M and Arkansas. Arkansas has really had some issues over the last couple of years, but they proved against Texas A&M that they are a legit team for sure. As you can see here, Texas A&M ends up falling in this ranking. Arkansas propelled all the way up to number 8. It was a great game to watch. Traylon Burks for Arkansas was terrific in that game. A lot to like from this Arkansas team because they've had some issues in the SEC. Not a ton of winning, but Arkansas definitely gets the job done. I think that both programs are obviously heading in the right direction. Texas A&M took a tough loss. They were previously 7th. Now they are 15th in the rankings. Coastal Carolina had a blowout win. They propelled themselves up just one spot in that blowout win to 16. Michigan State, they are definitely on a roll. They're currently sitting at 4-0 as well. But the other big game, let's kind of talk about it. It was the Notre Dame versus Wisconsin game. Notre Dame could not get the ball rolling on the ground. I think they had 32 carries for a total of only 3 yards. They just could not run the football. They ended up gutting out and winning that game still. That pushes Wisconsin to being unranked. So who would have thought this tough Wisconsin team would have been eventually unranked this early on in the season, 4 games into the year? I definitely did not see that coming from this Wisconsin program. There are some definite issues that need to get figured out as well. Another game that was absolutely huge in terms of the power shift of the very top, Clemson loses again. And I state that one more time, Clemson loses again to NC State by the final score of 27-21. Clemson offensively just has been struggling. Something's just not right with this team. It's not the well-oiled machine that we remembered it to be with Trevor Lawrence. There's a couple of things that they're trying to work out the kinks on. I think by the end of the year, they should be ranked once again, a little higher than they currently are at that 25th spot. Let's look below that. A couple of the teams that are close to that top 25. Texas had a big win over Texas Tech over the weekend. That was really, really impressive to watch. Maryland, another team that has been impressing some people. LSU, they ended up getting a nice win over Mississippi State. They had to kind of sweat it out towards the end. It ended up being a closer game than people thought, just because they ended up blowing the lead almost. They came very, very close to potentially losing that game. Let's kind of look at the top 10 as a whole, because that's where it really matters in terms of jockeying for position for the college football playoff. Alabama is going to be the clear and obvious favorite. And Georgia, wow, they're devastating, especially defensively. They are suffocating on that end of the ball. JT Daniels has done a nice job with that offense. They have a wonderful stable of running backs as well. They are loaded full of talent all over, top tier recruits. Oregon, another team that, they had that surprise win against Ohio State. They're 4-0. Penn State's looked really good as well, followed by that Iowa program. They just keep pushing, man. They're a gritty football team. Oklahoma's had some really close calls. I definitely think that they're lucky to be in this position where they're at currently at 6. I mean, they almost lost to Tulane in 2 weeks ago, I believe it was. And then the very close call against West Virginia. Cincinnati's at 7. Arkansas, we had talked about them a little bit. They are sitting at that 8th spot. I like that a lot for Arkansas. I hope they can continue to get those big wins within the SEC in that conference play. Notre Dame, huge win against Wisconsin. They needed to prove themselves once again. And then Florida, their only loss this season came in a pretty close game against Alabama. They were competitive for most of that game. And then just outside of that top 10 is Ohio State. They took that loss to Oregon. CJ Stroud is really trying to find his rhythm. They ended up having a huge win over the weekend. So overall, this top 25 looks pretty good. I don't have a lot of issues with some of the teams that are on here. Fresno State, they're off to a 4-1 start. They're a little noteworthy. UCLA also picked up a big win over the weekend. I believe it's against Stanford. Auburn had a nice win as well. So a couple of players here that I really think have a chance to win this college football playoff. I don't think that the top 6 teams are, necessarily. I don't think any of these are really pretenders. Oklahoma has come very close to losing some of those games. They might be potentially, but you never want to bet against an Oklahoma team. They are just so good. They're so consistent, especially during that regular season. Once it comes college football playoff time, I'm going to really need to see them lock in essentially. So thanks again for watching the video. This is Utility Sports. Subscribe if you are new. Also, leave a like if you do enjoy college football. Comment your favorite team below. I want to get to know the community and what everybody's favorite teams are that are watching the video. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we will see you guys in the next Utility Sports video.